Hello and good evening, everyone. Welcome back to Lady Ivory Media Podcast tour on YouTube. I am super excited to be back here. Really putting forth my podcast platform on YouTube. I absolutely appreciate everyone who has responded to the Substack email and power share. I absolutely appreciate that. What I'm trying to establish on Substack is really pushing for more um, podcast content, podcast like episode development, and just like spewing ideas and development for other content, as well as doing marketing and advertising for companies that I am affiliated with and doing those plugins for my podcast VODs. So, thank you everyone for subscribing and thank you for everyone checking in. Today we're going to be going over two episodes. First episode is um, Don't Give Up, and the second episode is Forgiving Your Flaws. Um, Doing your best as far as you not giving up, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to accept the bare minimum of your effort, but it does mean that you have the opportunity to identify um, what your strengths and your weaknesses are. Depending on the role or the position that you are pursuing, it is always okay to start small and work yourself to wherever your heart desires. A lot of the times, people have this instinct to, go in at the position that they want or the role that they want, and they're gonna kill it. They're gonna be the best, and that's absolutely fine. But if you don't have any previous experiences in that field or in that role, then there's gonna be some head butting going on as far as what your task and what your obligations are supposed to be when you are filling that position. So it is always okay to start small, start at a very, very careful pace. And that way you won't have to be given a lot to do, but that more so opens an opportunity for you to observe, for you to see how people interact with other people. You can hear about the different incidents or situations that may happen, how it is handled in a professional manner, and that can also alter how you would be able to approach a certain situation if you was in that position. So that's always okay. Doing your best means that you are doing the best in your ability in spite of circumstances and situations. A lot of time we do tend to put the do your best as do everything. When you are doing your best, that doesn't mean you have to do everything. You just have to do the best at whatever the task at hand is. And that is good enough. I'm not saying to cut corners. I'm not saying to, oh, you don't have to try so hard. Nah, I just don't want you to be put in the situation or be put in a circumstances to where when it comes time for you to show up and perform, there's a choke, there's a hesitant, and you are feeling flawed simply because of the effort that you have to take that you probably wasn't ready for. So that's always okay. When you are doing your best, you are making sure that not only are you handling your test, but you are also handling yourself in a proper manner simply because overlooking things with as overlooking things as far as what is needed to perform at the top of your game when you are filling that role, it's best to just do that part through an observation position instead of the forefront position. Simply because you can allow other people to make their mistakes and you can actually learn from it, or you can learn from the distribution of the role, and that can allow you to baby step your weaknesses and probably something that you are uncomfortable with in that position. Some people have anxiety when they are approached with confrontation. A lot of people shut down when someone is screaming at them. A lot of people are reactionary in different ways. So when you come to that point to where not only are you being challenged, but your position is being challenged, I wouldn't want you to be in a position to where you feel like you have to fight back or you feel like you have to retaliate, because um, that would be detrimental to you as far as how you uphold yourself in that position or that role. There are challenges that is going to come when you are pursuing these roles in personal development or leadership. When you have challenges to where it has to take a lot of strategy, it has to take a lot of thinking, it has to take a lot of pondering, then that gives you time to actually develop a plan, not only for that particular moment, but for moments on the far end that would actually allow you to be a little bit more comfortable in knowing how to strategize a plan when a challenge do come about. This doesn't mean that nothing bad will ever happen, but that does mean there's always something bad that's going to happen, and it's best for you to be prepared for that than for those circumstances to come about and you have no idea what to do at all. So that kind of draws into a weakness that some people do have, is more so being part of a confrontation or part of an issue instead of facing it head on, going through the steps, understanding what the situation is through all parties, and giving the reasonable doubt or given the circumstances that is at hand, and understanding how to go about it and how to resolve those issues. It gives you the opportunity to not only think for yourself or not only focus on your own position, but to understand how other people think, how other people are reactionary, not only to circumstances, but people in certain positions or in certain roles. Usually, depending on your position or your roles that you are pursuing or that you are developing in, a lot of people look at the position that you are in and they hold you to a high standard, which is absolutely okay. Because depending on those roles, it does take a lot of training, it does take a lot of studying, it does take a lot of practice and a lot of shadow work to get to the position that they are in. So when you are in that particular position, you are noted to go about certain situations and circumstances in a professional manner. And if you are a person who really don't like confrontation, because trust me, people are going to try to pull you out of your element. They do understand that you are in a very sensitive position. They do understand that you are in a very top tier position, or a position to where you are the go to person, and they are going to challenge that. They are going to see if you were actually built for this role, or you're just a seat filler. So there are going to be some people that is going to push those notes, but you have to make sure that you are strong on your self. You have to make sure you are strong on your policy. You have to make sure you are strong on your boundaries when you are fulfilling these roles and positions. And the experiences that comes behind it will be a little bit easier simply because it will not necessarily be consistent, but you will have had previous experiences in those circumstances, and that will help you better strategize how to approach those different challenges when they do come about, and over time, it'll just come with ease. Next category under Do Not Give Up is neglect. Neglect can be a rising or a falling hero. Uh, and what I mean by that is neglect can be an example of you having the position in leadership and there is a lot going on around you. Different groups, different people, different ideas, different perspectives. There's a lot going on. Every 5 minutes, three people is trying to talk to you at one time, and someone needs you here and someone needs you there. It can give a bit of a shadow work to neglect simply because of it's a reactionary situation that you would have to be in order to know what is and what is not being neglected. You could be in a position to help people, but the neglect could be that it's causing you to burn out. The circumstances could be that you are challenged with um, an issue that may be going on in your vicinity, but the neglect would be not understanding the protocol and policies that is going to stabilize whatever the situation is in order for it to be resolved in a timely and a professional manner. Allowing that will help you understand that everything is going to be accounted for and nothing is going to be left out, to where if it does take yourself to another level or to another phase of action, all of the policies and all of the checks in the boxes is cleared and there is nothing that is left out, to where the situation could not be as bad, or the situation could be resolved to where all parties is satisfied to the best of their ability. Um, don't give up. Category remembering why you started. Always remember why you started. I always say write this down. Write down the first sentence that comes to your mind after you ask yourself, why did I pursue this position? If you can not only write one sentence, but you write three, you write five, you write seven, then that just gives you more clarity that not only are you starting this development journey, or you starting this leadership role for one reason, but there's a lot of reasons that you are pursuing this you're pursuing this role. So that gives you an even more solid understanding that not only that this position or this developmental stage is not going to attest to one thing, but it's going to attest to multiple. And even upon that, writing within that, the reasons why you started pursuing personal development or a leadership role is simply identifying how you feel, like doing different phrases, different concepts of words that help you identify how you feel about each sentence, on why you started this journey in personal development, and the words that you attach to each of those sentences on why you started your journey. Those could be strengths and those can be weakness. I started this journey because sometimes when I interact with people and they start yelling at me, I get nervous. That could be anxiety. You have to find what triggers that in order for you to know how to regulate your feelings when you do um approach that situation to where you won't allow what you feel to overtake the entire situation, and it could have been handled in um, another light, um, and making sure that everything is accounted for, but having that interaction and knowing that having those interactions can be triggering to you and they're not regulated to the point to where it could be upkept so um it won't hinder any delay in resolving the issue. That could be something that you can take that time for yourself to regulate it, to find why that is triggering, to understand why is that triggering, to shine a light on why is this even present if this is what I want to do. So that's going to give yourself a breakthrough as far as you pulling into your new strengths simply because you are identifying the weaknesses within them. So always remember to never give up on your journey and leadership or personal development. It is absolutely important for you to reinvent yourself. It is literally part of the human experience. Life is a human experience, and we are all here to learn. We are never too grown to learn, and we are never too old to be taught. So, understanding that can open multiple doors of opportunity for you to fill a role that could build your personal development into your best self. So, I'm going to jump into one of the podcast episodes: leadership, personal development, and humanitarian roles. Having the idea of developing yourself and installing yourself in a humanitarian role is a very very big task. It's a very selfless task. um, a lot of people can't understand why leadership is a pursuit for a lot of people. It's simply because it's instilled in us already. It's already in our minds to want to help other people, to want to see people in their best selves, to want to see people thrive, to want to see people really conquer their dreams and overcome their fears and push past insecurities. It's a very big deal. It allows us to experience life in a bigger picture. And as I said previously, you never know how big your picture is supposed to be if you keep it in a small frame. Always put your picture in a bigger frame to see how much you can grow or how much you have accomplished. Becoming a asset to your community can roll into doing community service or developmental service, working with your city, working with your community, collaborating with different businesses. I've spoken to people who have signed contracts to do food drives with food trucks. I've spoken to people who volunteer at food pantries, and they do food drives and stuffed animal drives. So when you are becoming an asset to a community, you are within your community, but you are looking at your community as if you are on the outside looking in. And you're really seeing everything for exactly what it is. And you are thinking in your mind, how could I help my community become a more solid community? How can I put myself in a position to do um, humanitarian roles or to do leadership tasks to where I can personally see the people or the individuals in my community become their best selves, to feel more safe or to feel more secure or to feel more seen or to feel helped, that someone is actually taking that community into consideration to put themselves in a position to work with different individuals so they can become their best selves. And a lot of times, a lot of people would just want to learn on their own, which is absolutely fine. But there's always room for growth, and it's always okay to ask for help. As far as volunteering and community service, it is okay to volunteer because it actually allows you to develop a footprint in understanding who's in your community, what kind of people is in your community, what the interest is of the people in your community. And once you develop that information, you can put that into your task bin and say, okay, this is what the people are talking about. This is what the community is talking about. And in order for that to happen, this has to happen, this has to go, we have to get permission for this, we have to get permits for that. And a lot of times it can be a very big pill to swallow, depending on the depending on the task that is at hand. It may be a community that is more prone, looking at it at a sociological standpoint, that could use more activities, they could use more food pantries, they could use more community food drives or community participation, and that allows people in your community to not only work with each other, but to also know more about each other. You have no idea how many people that are in parts of communities, and it's a group of people that is within a community and they know nothing about each other. They are in their own world. They are pretty much giving themselves the high walls, the high picket fence, the high privacy fence. You know, they're always in their bubble, which is completely okay. But there is more security and there's more sanity in a community that knows of and can help each other. Whereas putting yourself in a humanitarian role or in a leadership role, you would be the ringleader of that. You would be the one to push that narrative as far as having the idea of community, having the idea of helping other people when they are in need, or given an event to where it could send a positive message into a community, like saying, hey, we all live together in the same community. We are all passing by each other every day. You know, why not why not, say a hello? Why not, display some sort of interest to the people that is within your community? And by you being the ringleader of that, that could make your community grow stronger. And as far as community service, that could be different tasks as far as starting a food drive or starting a clothing drive or volunteering um, at the fire department or cleaning your community or clearing, I forgot what those things are, clearing street drains to reduce flooding that may cause accidents. It's the little things that really make the big difference when you are pursuing humanitarian roles. And it's also a bigger task to motivate people to also join your agenda. Connecting with city officials is absolutely key, especially if you are someone who does big events. A lot of people feel like because they live in the community or because they live in the city, they can, they can go to the city park or they can go to the county park and, throw an event or host an event. Not all of them. Not all of them. In some cases, depending on the event, depending on the capacity of the event, you do have to have a permit. You do have to have a fire marshal available who can give a number status of the capacity in which you can hold. Majority of the time, sometimes it's 30 people, sometimes it's 50 people, and it may seem like a lot, but it depends on what the event is and where it is. If it is indoors, of course, it's going to be lower. But if it's outside in the open and people can see and people have the space to run around and walk around and do different things, then there'll be a little bit more leeway. Especially connecting with city officials could give them the heads up on whatever event that you're trying to plan for your community. It could be a food drive, it could be a clothes drive, it could be a food pantry, it could be a community trash pickup day. Shucks, it could be a 5K run or a 3K run or something like that. Um, you'll have the heads up of everything that you could possibly do or don't do and the permits that you may need in order to host the events. So you'll already have all the information that you need before even planning the event. And before you plan the event, I would say if you're ever going to reach out to a city official, if you want to do a community event, to give the city officials, fire marshal, at least a 2 week or a 10-day heads up, just in case anything happens and the emergency facilities could be aware that there is an event that is going on within that city or within that community to where there is going to be activities and a crowd of people. So just in case anything happens, you'll already have the heads up with everyone, and um, situations can be responded to in a timely manner. Find an organization to further your leadership. That could be either starting your own um, organization or partnering up with another organization that is um, equivalent to the things that you want to do when you are in your developmental stages, and you really just want to surround yourself with people that have been in that position for a long time. They can teach you, they can guide you, they can show you the ropes, they can show you how to navigate through different um, roles and different tasks that it takes to actually properly run um, an organization if you are in the limbo of joining a community or partnering with a community. Leadership fights against doubt. It absolutely do. Um, like I said, leadership and personal development is leadership is selfless. Personal development is selfish, and that goes hand in hand. Um, Pursuing a leadership role as far as fighting against your doubt, it always comes at the beginning because in the beginning you always see yourself as one. I would say it takes 3 to 6 months for you to be consistent in your leadership role, in your developmental role, to actually start seeing yourself as part of a group, because you're really trying to identify what your strengths and your weaknesses are, on top of how you can contribute either of those traits into the position that you are currently pursuing. And in some cases, doubts will come about. The lack of um, understanding what the task could be can also encourage doubt, and that can really harden um, your leadership pursuit or your humanitarian pursuit, simply because you probably feel like you're doing everything by yourself, but you're probably in an organization. So it's also best to say, or to lend out advice, or to ask questions to make sure either something is okay to do, or something is okay for you to start, as far as um, managing different roles within that realm. Finding your quality in leadership goes back to the previous one, kind of really building yourself and molding yourself into um, that role. There is going to be some hiccups. There are going to be some mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. It's not the end of the world if you make a mistake. It is the end of the world if you keep making the same mistakes. But the best part about that is, in the beginning, everything is a learning stride. Everything is learning. You're really understanding what the objective is, you're understanding what your role is, you're trying to fill it out, you're really putting yourself in motion and giving yourself a chance to really break out of that, the new car smell, trying to get the new car smell off, to really fill yourself into that humanitarian and leadership role. And it does take some time for you to do that, simply because not only are you doing the best that you can, but you are also observing what other people are doing and understanding what their roles are and understanding what their tasks are. And if you could actually give yourself a chance to sit back and be an audible to the people that is around you, that has different positions and roles in leadership and personal development, and you see how their routines are, you can kind of get an idea of being able to see yourself doing the same tasks. In some cases, a lot of people take on tasks that is a little bit too much to bite, a little bit too much to swallow. We will cross that bridge when we get to it. That can be another day. And in some instances, it could be the small things that you do see that other people that really haven't set their eyes on. You could be the first person to bring that to light, and that could be something that could help your quality and leadership become more powerful. Volunteering for first responders, that could be as far as firefighters, police officers, city officials, hospitals, um, especially in modern times, to where there are more one than the other. And putting yourself in that role as far as leadership, like I said, leadership is a selfless role. Um, and I'm not gonna say, you know, leadership role is mostly voluntary than anything, because in some instances it is voluntary. more than anything. But it's voluntary, but it's also purposeful, simply because there is something that needs to be done, but no one wants but no one wants to do it, or no one is paying attention to it. So not only does it not get done, but it also decreases the value of unity within your community simply because of that flaw. So putting yourself in that position, to find yourself in leadership is also finding what could be possible instead of what is already available. Next topic is community, connection, interest. Giving yourself grace, everything works itself out. Sometimes it do. Sometimes we do, and I'm speaking for myself as well. Sometimes we go into a humanitarian role, or we go into a leadership role, and we have this fire in our chest, and we have these pride in our eyes, and we feel like we can, anything that we approach ourselves, any test that we approach ourselves with, is just going to be knocked out of the park. And in some instances, some situations are a little too far gone to manage, simply because, especially as a new individual that is coming into, or that is um, associating themselves with people in leadership, and it's never been anything of their interest before, but it is something that they are pursuing currently. it gives you um, it gives you an instant of really realizing, I can do something about it. It's probably not going to be great, but if I could just get started with it and just work with it over time, it's going to slowly get better. And a lot of people really, sadly, drop out of leadership roles simply because of how timely it is, to really allow a task or a objective to really reach its potential, simply because of the neglect that was established in the beginning. It's something that no one has touched. It's nothing that anyone has thought about. But over time, if you do small tasks by small tasks, it could lead to something to where it would be not only become something that was overlooked, but you actually put yourself in a position to allow that to be beneficiary, to your community. Plan a future for your leadership. Understanding why you started, and understanding what your end goal is. And in some cases, there is no end goal. Depending on the roles that you are pursuing, um, leadership can definitely have a long haul effect, on people, and it is a beautiful thing. It's very heartfelt. It's very inspiring, to where not only are you able to live in a community, but you can actually become the reason why the community gets stronger over time. Putting in that work, understanding who the people are in your community, understanding what their interests are, understanding what the people, or what the individuals want to see grow into the community, and by them giving you that information, you can start developing small tasks and small, ideas, for not only the people in your community ideas to be met, but they can actually see it simply because of you. Attending more venues to network with to network with other leaders. And this doesn't really have to be physical. Everything is pretty much digital now. So there are seminars, there are webinars, there are forums, um, to where you can join and network with other people and see what other people have going on. And then in that instance, even if you are part of another organization in leadership or personal development, you can extend your services to other organizations because you never know. You could volunteer to help an event for another community, and you see, y'all know where I'm going with this, but I mean, every point of leadership is absolutely inspiring. Every point of community is inspiring, especially the networking part, because not only do you get to talk to other people, but you also get to hear their story. You get to hear their story of resilience and how they started and how scared they were. And a lot of people that I have met in my time in leadership, they've always say, I don't talk to people. I never wanted to be around people, but ever since I've been here, I talk to people every day, and I love speaking to people and hearing their stories. And that's pretty much what it's all about as far as networking and community development, especially in leadership, simply because you are allowing yourself to grow not only in leadership, but you are allowing yourself to grow with your community. So, the more you do and the more you know about your community, the more that you can do to where it can actually be a career at the end of the day. Associating yourself with people in different associations and societies. Um, is that portion is pretty much like mindedness. I personally love interacting with other people in advocacy and pretty much people who are um, it's the word that's on sitting on the top of my head. I can't even say it right now. Um, but there are people who are in positions to network with organization by organization, and allowing each other to exchange ideas, not necessarily taking ideas, but exchanging ideas that could really broaden, raise the horizon of what a particular foundation can be or what it could grow into. Simply because you're giving yourself a chance to really hear someone else's perspective. Simply because we are in a leadership position does not mean that we know everything. There's a lot of things that you can figure out or find out by talking to people within your community that you probably never thought about or probably didn't know that was possible until you hear it from another person. And that's what's making networking with people who are indifferent, who are in other categories. It depends on the category that you are in. And that could be pretty much be a filler into what your current objectives are and leading that into really pivoting the way that you are building the foundation of your community. Decision making and leadership, being purposeful, being mindful, being considerate is very important simply because it allows you to really gather yourself and to understand this is something that I want to see develop into something amazing simply because of the efforts and simply because of the time that was spent doing small tasks and networking with people and traveling and all of these great things. It does serve a purpose when it is a selfless task that you are pursuing. Growing as a leader is absolutely important simply because it allows you to be a better leader. And not only does it help you be a better leader, but it allows you to inspire other people. And you may have somewhere down the line some people who want to do shadow work with you. They are inspired by how you are taking on situations. They are inspired by how you're planning events. They are inspired by how you speak to people and how you make everyone feel welcome, how you make everyone feel comfortable, how you don't leave anyone out, how you are considering everything that goes on within that community. And there's going to be some people who would like to volunteer. They may not be in a leadership position, but they want to be part of that growing factor that you have planned for your community and allow them to really be that extra hand that you can't reach. Simply because in some cases a task can be a little bit too big for one person to handle. So it's always great to have other people involved when you are given these roles and when you are doing these personal developments within your community. Also taking into consideration of how your planning or how your approach to the community is making your community feel. Um, Really take into consideration of security, acknowledgement. It could be through newsletters. It could be through email pushes. You could develop a group chat or a Facebook to where you can allow people in your community to address different interests or circumstances that may happen within the community, and you'll have firsthand on how you feel the community should see that change or to see how that should be resolved as far as how it should be resolved in amongst public policy. It could be a give or take, and it could be something that is completely out of your hands, and that is something that they will probably have to take down to City Hall. But by being in a leadership position and as a utilitarian, a person who is all knowing in how to guide and how to pursue a task in leadership, it can definitely be important as a statute and a representative as leadership. And that is something that people in the community would love to see, that someone is taking forth the initiative, someone is doing something about it. Oh my God, thank God you filled that pothole. I thought I had to get 4 new tires again. So it's really the small stuff that can make a big difference in how your community sees you, because not only do you see how the community can be better, but it's going to also make the people in the community want to do more to push the narrative of the community to become better and stronger together. Give me a moment. I'm going to take a quick intermission and I will be right back. I just want to say thank you. I am absolutely enjoying my podcast journey. For um, for concept, I did start my podcast journey March of this year, and it has been very therapeutic to me. My podcast catalog was featured in the Black Pod Awards Spotlight newsletter this past September, and I have been collaborating with other podcasters and really exchanging talking points and ideas. So I am definitely um, embedded into my podcast career. I absolutely inspire everyone to give their story a voice. I'm not saying to start a podcast, but you can give your story a voice. I always tell people that you have no idea that your story may inspire someone or your experiences could help someone's current situation. So I always tip my hat off to the people who started podcasts and is still rocking, or for the people who are thinking about starting a podcast. It's just pretty much you introducing people to who you are, what your talking points are, what your interests are, what your ideas could be, and allowing yourself to shine a light on how you feel about different ideas and different categories that you may have interest in. I am looking forward to releasing um, a second season of podcast content early next year. I haven't decided on a particular date. I do still have editing and some ad plugs to insert. Of course, I'm going to upload another VOD as far as my content on the internet. Um, the original um, VODs that don't have um, the ads plug in after editing would probably be for subscribers, and then the ones with the subscribers they will have it's those particular things. So it's still new. We're still taking baby steps in the podcast world, but it has definitely been a wonderful stride. And I am absolutely looking forward to it. I appreciate you all for stopping by. Please, please, please feel free to go into the podcast tab on my YouTube to check out other episodes that I have developed and leave a comment under any particular topic within that episode that you would like for me to further elaborate on, or a topic that you might want to hear my point of view on. And that is pretty much an extension that I offer my community to also be a part of my podcast journey. Um, and I absolutely look forward to it in every way, shape, or form. Thank you very much for stopping in. I hope everyone have a safe and wonderful night. Make sure you all are good to yourselves and make sure you guys hydrate. I will catch you guys in the next one. Bye.